And let me introduce everybody who's with me. So today I've got Robby King, my business partner and buyer's agent extraordinaire, and then Jonathan Minsk, mortgage lender extraordinaire with Ameris Bank. And then today we've got our special guest, Ed Torrance, carpet extraordinaire, no, flooring extraordinaire with Carpet Direct. And he'll be telling us a little bit about his business a little later. So as usual, we're going to talk about stats and things that went on the last week, but really since we've been doing this now a little over 3 months, I guess, since March, we thought we'd do a little wrap up and share what's happened in the last 14 weeks in Atlanta real estate and do a bigger overview. And then just so you know, Robby, you can share your screen if you'd like, because I made that allowable. So feel free. I'm going to let Robby take it over.
Thank you. Yeah, so what we have been doing, and I can't believe it's been 14 weeks, but what we've that's nutty. But what we've been doing at the start of each of these calls or Zoom meetings is kind of just talking about what's happened in real estate in the last week. And so we've been kind of doing it call to call to call, so Wednesday to Wednesday. And we felt like just based on our typical clientele and the transactions and the real estate that we interact with most, the swath of land or the area that we should focus on would be just everything that's inside the perimeter. That's where we do the majority of our transactions, although sometimes we do go outside the perimeter. So we've been doing it week to week. What we had noticed from the start, but we weren't sure, the reason we kind of started doing these calls was because of the coronavirus outbreak. And we, as soon as that started to sort of spread and ramp up and affect people in a big way, we were starting to field a lot of questions from people. And it was a lot of, similar questions. A lot of people had the same questions, like, how does this affect the fact that I had every intention to sell my house this year or to buy a house or both. So that's kind of why we started to dig into the numbers and to try to figure out what effects was this having. So instead of doing, the past week, what I have this week is everything from March 1st up until this morning. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if y'all can see this, okay? So here's what's happened inside the perimeter from March 1st until this morning. The average sales price for both attached dwellings, so condos and townhomes, and single family residences was almost 460,000. The median days on the market for those sales was just 20 days. So shy of a month. That's really a fantastic number and a very encouraging number for anybody who was thinking of selling and especially wanted to sell, in the spring of this year. Everyone's doing really well in terms of what they're getting for, for their real estate sale. So what I did for months of available inventory this call is I just averaged in from March 1st up until this morning. So just 3.73 months of available inventory was the average, meaning that the way, just the way it's been for the last several years in Atlanta, it's definitely a seller's market. And there is definitely kind of a drought of inventory, and that's the way it's been for quite a while now. And the median sales to list price ratio, again, instead of doing the last week, this is anything that sold between March 1st and this morning. Median sales to list price was a little over 97%. So as far as listings go, just like the volume of listings, between March 1st and today, there were 3,307 new listings, over 4,000 closed transactions, and currently a little over 4,200 total active. So this has been really helpful for us as realtors to look at these numbers week after week. I think we kind of do this anyway, and especially maybe on a monthly basis, kind of dig into the numbers a little bit and measure how the market is doing. I think this year it's been even more important because we've been really kind of, for a lack of a better term, kind of in the hot seat of having to answer detailed questions about how the market's doing. So it's been helpful for us to dig into these numbers and to try to illustrate for people what drives value in the real estate market, what affects value, what kind of event would it take for home values to start to decline. As it turns out, what we've learned and what we kind of thought at the beginning, and COVID is still happening, but what we've learned all this time, I think, is that what drives value is what you learn, in real estate school, and what people kind of reiterate a lot, which is it's really a matter of supply and demand. That's the bottom line. Home values are not going to be affected by a health crisis necessarily. When there's such a high demand in the market, from buyers who want to purchase real estate in this area, that's what drives the home value, and that's why values really haven't gone down. So that's what we've tried to illustrate with these numbers week after week, and this is kind of, like we said at the beginning, just a wrap up of what's happened for the last 14 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Robby. Absolutely. That's great information. And I love it. You added at the end as well. So, if you have been watching these calls or joining the Zooms or watching on Facebook, you probably realize that this is what's going on by now, but there are some people that are kind of late to the game, or people who haven't been interested in knowing about the market or thinking about buying or selling until this time. So I think knowing the overview of what's been going on is really helpful too for those people as well. And to show the consistency, and that going into the summer and even probably early fall and even winter at this point, I think it's going to stay similar, if not pick up even more. We don't see any kind of downturn happening in prices or activity. So I think that's great.
Well,
so
yeah.
That said, Jonathan has, similar information in his world of mortgages, because somebody's getting all the loans for all these homes that are selling, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to talk now about what's been going on the last week and any other kind of wrap up information he wants to share regarding the last 14 weeks or so. And then again, if y'all have any questions on Facebook or on the Zoom, thank you for joining the Zoom. We've got a couple people there. Feel free to write it on the chat box or wave at us. We'll see you and we'll call you out. So go ahead, Jonathan, tell us what's been going on.
Yeah, so I know Robby's statistics were predominantly those that are inside the perimeter, right, Robby? Anything inside?
Yeah, everything inside the perimeter.
Okay, so I have a customer of mine who was thinking about refinancing, and all of a sudden they found a new construction house that they wanted to buy, and the house was ready. The new construction house was ready, and so I informed them that they had to sell the house they're in now in order to qualify for the house that they want. So they got very quickly put the house on the market, and it's in Kennesaw. I'm saying this, it's not inside the perimeter, and they put the house on the market on Friday, and by the end of Friday they had 2 full price offers. So, it just tells you that it's not just inside the perimeter, it's just all over Atlanta that, people are out there, they're looking for houses, and if something hits the market and it's priced right, it's going to go very, very quickly. As far as, what's going on with the mortgage side of things and with Amerisa specifically, just in the month of June, and we're only 24 days into it, we've already locked over $1.02 billion in loans this month. And we'll lock probably my guess would be another 200 million before the end of the month. So in May, we closed just over $1 billion in business. In June, it was about 950 some odd million. And I think July is looking to be right at about $1 billion too. And those are incredible numbers. And, take into consideration, this is during COVID. I mean, we've been able to, to get these loans approved and through the system and closed and funded with no issues whatsoever. And that's also with about 95+% of our employees working remotely from their homes. So because of technology, there's nothing that's stopping the mortgage process. And I'm seeing more and more people, call to get pre-qualified because they're going to start their search in the very, very near future. So that sort of supports what we've been talking about on these calls for the past 14 weeks is that typically the spring is when we start seeing that huge, break of people, rushing out to buy homes. And it's kind of, even though it's been very consistent this year, I think we haven't seen the real rush of people. And I think that's going to come in the summer. So I think, to piggyback on what Katie said is I think that, once people are really out there looking at, it's just going to get busier and busier and busier and probably stay so later than it normally does in a typical year. As far as myself, I would say that right now I'm on track to probably double the production that I did last year if this continues. So it just tells you that, a lot of it too is with refinances, but a lot of it is just purchase money. People are really, want to take advantage of the fact that interest rates are, at or below 3%. And so, if they have, if they are in a position where they don't have to sell something and buy something and take advantage of the 3%, they want to do this as quickly as possible. So I think we're going to see more and more people getting out there and looking at homes, and hopefully that also means that more people will start listing their homes so that there'll be more inventory. But it'll be interesting to see, how everything plays out. But it's interesting when I'm just thinking about this in my head. When we started 14 weeks ago, there was so much unknown, but with Katie and Robby and myself, we're like, we knew that things were going well, but we didn't know, is it going to stop? Is it going to continue? And it just sort of, it really has just kept gaining momentum, if anything, and getting more and more busy. And I think, like I said, we're going to see that continue, hopefully, for the next, who knows how many months, but it's not, in my opinion, going to end anytime soon. Mm-hmm. That, I will turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you, Jonathan. That's great. And that's also amazing and excellent news to hear that you're doubling your business from last year. That's incredible. And I can say that Robby and I have also had, a good run here in the last 14 weeks, and it's looking even better for July. This June and July are going to be, really big months for us. And we do have a little slideshow thing I think I can show later to show you some of the homes we have put under contract since March. Because, a lot of people are asking, like, we talk about these things on the calls, but like really what's going on or what are you selling? So we have some visuals of that as too that we can share with you. So now we're going to go to our special guest, Ed Torrance with Carpet Direct. He is an awesome flooring person. Don't let the name fool you. It says Carpet Direct, but he works with all different types of flooring, and he'll probably talk about that some. And actually, Ed and Jonathan and I were all on a networking. We're all in a networking team together, and they still are on the same one at PowerCore. So we've known him a long time. I personally use Ed's services, and I've referred him times to many people. Maybe some of you watching on the call have used Ed too, but we thought it'd be interesting. We like to get different vendors on here and kind of talk about what they do and their experience too in this past 14 weeks, because a lot of people are obviously kind of at home, working at home, and whether you're just staying in your existing home and just wanting to update it and maintain it, or you're getting it ready to sell, or you're buying a new home and you need flooring. I mean, he's somebody like us that's been essential this whole time, and he hasn't stopped working. So I may have repeated some stuff you're going to say, Ed, but I wanted to give you a little intro. So go ahead and tell us about your business and what's been going on.
Sure. Thank you. I do need to work out a name change. I was just looking at my numbers year to date, and almost half of it is sand and finished hardwood. So even though I call myself Carpet Direct, carpet is getting to be a relatively small piece of what I actually sell. And for the flooring industry, the number one reason people purchase flooring is because a home is changing ownership. So it's not surprising if real estate's doing well as an industry. Flooring at the moment is doing very, very well as an industry. It's been a little hard to believe because at the first with the shelter at home, the industry pretty much shut down. Sales plummeted faster than I even thought was possible across the industry, but then it's rebounded just as strong. So it's as strong as I've ever seen it at this point. And really, I view my goal is when someone walks in a home to purchase it, the last thing we want there to be an issue with is the flooring. So I really view my job is to work with the sellers, the buyers, to make any issues with flooring go away. And sellers are very different from buyers. When I'm working with sellers, they're very much focused on, we want to make the floor look clean and fresh and updated along with the rest of the house. And they very much wanted to do it economically since they don't plan to live there. And whenever I'm working with a seller, one of the things I often frequently remind them that the point here is picking products the buyers will like. It's not their personal taste in colors or style or whatever. It's what do you think would make the home most marketable to the person who's most likely to walk through the home interested in buying it. When you look the opposite end of the spectrum with people buying, it doesn't really matter whether they're buying what we would call a starter home or a mansion. To them, it's still a dream home. It's still a huge step forward. And for those people, what I'm always stressing, pick what you like. It's your home. You're going to live here. Make it reflect your taste, your personality, and be something that you really enjoy living on for a long time. Katie's already mentioned I do a full range of products. The three big ones in the Atlanta market are carpet, hardwood, and the luxury vinyl. So just a couple words on carpet. Particularly when people are selling, they're always looking for economical. But so what really varies is color. The cool colors are still very much in fashion. A lot of people are still putting the grays on the wall when they're painting. A lot of people are going to the very light, more neutrals. But still yet, the carpet colors that go well with that are the cooler colors, whether it's a gray or a taupey beige or a mix of the two. Atlanta is a sand and finish market when it comes to hardwood. It's amazing. Almost all homes have sand and finish. And the wonderful thing about sand and finish is we can sand it down to the bare wood, go back with any color they like. It's very repairable. We can lace in where there's been water damage, or they can extend additional wood. And when we're done, it's a brand new floor. And one of the things about flooring, it's often need to be updated for two reasons. One is we walk on it, we live on it, the pets, the kids, it takes a beating, but it's also a fashion element. So even if you're selling a home and the floors are pristine, but they're 20 years old, they still look an old dated floor. And then the last product I was going to take a moment to mention was a luxury vinyl. It's become so popular, I can't imagine people are not aware of it by now. It's usually referred to as waterproof because water does not damage it. I think over the years when we've had the surge in hardwoods, people have now discovered there are issues with hardwood when you have pet accidents and water. So a lot of people are looking for a product that will hold up to water and pets better, and that's the luxury vinyl. But basically goes down as planks. And I would say in that product, don't let the word vinyl fool you. It's not the vinyl of years ago. It's some pretty amazing, beautiful products now. So those are a few headlines from the world of flooring and how it relates with the real estate industry.
Let me unmute myself. Great, thank you, Ed. That's really interesting and helpful info. I think I have a couple questions and other people might as well. Specifically about this luxury vinyl, would you consider that, so like if sometimes it looks like a hardwood floor, there's other names for it, right? What are the other names of the?
Usually it goes by the acronyms. A lot of people call it LVT, LVP, LVF. It all began as luxury flooring. They were trying to get the connotation away from vinyl. So they went to make it sound that it's not chic good, so they said luxury vinyl. But 10 years ago, people were so hung up on the word vinyl.
Yeah.
It's like, don't say the word vinyl, call it luxury vinyl towel, because most of it looked like towel then. Somewhat like the KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken marketing. Let's just call it by the acronym so no one hears the word fried.
Yeah.
And then as they made, most of the product now are wood planks. And so that's why some call it luxury vinyl plank. Some make it really simple, just make it luxury vinyl flooring. There's a huge range in the products, price points. If you go really cheap, it tends to look like a cheap plastic floor. If you get a nice product, it can look very fashionable. But if you get a very nice product, it's no longer a cheap floor. You know, it's still an investment in flooring. In other markets around the country, has been used a lot on the main level. In Atlanta, I'm only starting to see it used on the main level. My own feeling for nicer homes, people still expect hardwoods versus a luxury vinyl. So in Atlanta, most of my luxury vinyl, I'm selling it in basements, you know, kitchens, but I don't think at some of the nicer price points, you know, housing's not cheap in Atlanta. I still think people really want to see a hardwood floor.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely on the main floors. And now obviously also like in the bedrooms, you know, and upstairs and offices, people want hardwoods everywhere. I'm glad you mentioned pricing for a second, and I know you can't give specifics, but maybe talk a little bit about why someone would choose to go with you, and oftentimes why I've referred you when they could go to Home Depot or other places, you know, to get this flooring. Like, talk about maybe some of the savings that you offer, because I think they're pretty significant.
Yeah, there's several reasons they come with me. And one is I do everything by appointment in the home. And that the only way you really know how something will look in your home is take it in the home, put it against the paint, put it against your couch, put it against your cabinets. Our minds are not good at remembering colors. We think we can remember a color, but when you drive to a store and then try to remember what your cabinets look like and then what a piece of flooring looked like and imagine, now, is that going to look nice or not? It's not easy. So it saves all the shuttle back and forth. The next reason is a lot of people don't enjoy dealing with huge companies, you know, because when you go to a huge company, one person's going to show you product, another person going to measure it, another person going to handle the installation. Works well, it works well, but there are a lot of places where things can slip in the crack. And then I just offer real good values. And my whole structure is around no overhead, no brick and mortar showroom, no advertising, very little marketing, no inventory, no receivables. That's why I technically call myself a broker, because it's really taking out the overhead so you can give a good value, good service, and count on referrals for your business.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, again, I've referred you so much. And again, personally, I've used you in my own home. So, and they did a great job there. So I can speak to that. Anybody else?
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I do, Katie.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah. So first of all, I also will give you a big shout out. I used Ed several years ago when I had to replace carpeting in a bedroom, and he did a great job with that. So I can attest.
Thank you.
That Katie has said, as well as everything that Ed has said about his pricing and him coming to you and having the samples in hand so that you can actually see what you're going to get. But that's not my question. My question is, so we talked about luxury vinyl, and what I'm seeing more of these days too is ceramic tile that sort of has that looks like wood. So just out of curiosity, comparing the luxury vinyl versus the ceramic tile that has that wood finish, can you talk about durability and affordability of the two? Is one more durable than the other, and is one far more expensive, or are they about the same price-wise?
Sure. For durability, you can't beat a ceramic tile. The main thing with a ceramic tile, if you drop something on it, it can crack and break. But as much as people talk about that, that rarely happens. The key on ceramic tile also is the installation. You know, using the concrete boards, using the crack suppressors underneath it. But you know, there are tile and porcelain floors have been down for hundreds of years. Now they kind of look rough, but on the other hand, they've been down for many years and survived. With the porcelains or ceramic tiles, the big headache is grout, keeping the grout clean. Now, so many of the wood-looking products are darker, so people use a darker grout, and that solves that problem. There are also stain-resist grouts. I always recommend those to my clients because they're not that much more in the scope of the total project, and they resist. They're just so much easier to clean and resist mildew and such. The vinyl products are very good for durability. I think they're actually being oversold some in the industry now. They are waterproof, but I remind my clients that does not mean flood proof. If you have a big flood in the house, you can have water get up underneath the floor. I was in one today where that had happened. They're very, very good for durability of walking on it and living on it. But I remind people, drag a heavy piece of furniture, you can scratch it because it's still vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So of the durability, at the end of the day, your tile is going to win. Absolutely will win. Even though the luxury vinyl is a very, very good product. You know, when you kind of think of durability, I would say you put it on your ceramic porcelain tiles first, and then your luxury vinyls, and then hardwoods and carpets are well below both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Cost-wise, if you're talking quality products and we're installing it on a slab, a luxury vinyl tile will be about the same. Where luxury vinyl is so much cheaper is on the installation side if we're going over plywood floors, if there's a lot of floor prep needed. So when you get into projects where ceramic tiles will take a lot of work before we install it, your luxury vinyls can be much, much cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Good question, Jonathan. That's good to know the difference and the durability, you know, and in homes with, especially with children or dogs or really any animals, we talked about stains and issues that can happen with that. It seems like a really good alternative to hardwoods and carpet for sure. Yeah.
There's one additional product I would add that laminates have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had a lot of issues with water damage, really hurt their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're coming out with laminates that are also, they guarantee that the water, if you spill it on the top, will evaporate before it damages the laminate.
Mm.
I'm interested to see how that product does. I think over the next few years, it could really be a challenge for luxury vinyl in competing.
Mm-hmm.
Because for overall durability, denting, scratching, fade, you can't beat a laminate. Its downfall was always water. And
Mm-hmm.
now if they've really tackled the water problem, particularly for families with big dogs, kids, where the house just takes a beating,
Mm-hmm.
I think the laminates are going to be a very viable competitor with a new generation of products.
Good.
I
That's
have
good
one
to
more
know.
question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just more of what you're seeing out there in people's homes. So you mentioned that many people have hardwoods throughout their entire first level, and seeing more and more floor plans where it's just a really open floor plan, an open concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking this question because I remember in my old place I had hardwood in the kitchen, and with dogs and water, I mean, it got ruined. So
Mm-hmm.
are you seeing people maybe combining in an open concept area where they have the living area and maybe the dining area are real hardwood floors, and then maybe in the kitchen where they're trying to match it to look like the other floors, where they have something completely different, whether it's luxury vinyl or the ceramic tile, and how does that look? I mean, does it look funny, or are more people kind of going that route, or what are you seeing as the trend?
The advice I give my clients is if they're going to do two different products, real woods next to luxury vinyls or laminates or something else that's simulated to look like wood, you've got to be really careful, because if you're trying to match it, then suddenly the simulated wood suddenly looks so much less realistic when you put it right beside real hardwood.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice normally is, if you're going to do a wood look next to a wood look where one's real and one's not real, do something where it's different and looks quite different on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've got your wood look in the living area and then do a stone look in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're complementing the two products and not trying to match it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'll mention to people when they're trying to match colors, that's tough. You know, if you have colors that contrast a little bit, a lighter next to a darker,
Mm-hmm.
it's much, much more forgiving when you try to match and it looks like you tried to match. So often you'll look at it and realize the colors aren't quite right. One is too yellow, or one's too red, or too light. I think when you're intentionally not trying to match them, but you're just trying to make the colors complementary, it's much more forgiving, much easier to make it look nice.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. So are you,
Great. Did that answer your
seeing,
question, John?
yeah, so it does a lot, but I was so also, are you seeing more people combine the two? And it doesn't necessarily have to be wood, wood looking vinyl and ceramic tile, but just like breaking up all the hardwoods and having a different type of flooring, maybe in the kitchen area, that is more durable than, say, hardwood is.
The trend now is for everything to match.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much, and particularly with the open floor plans, the vast majority of people want, when they're doing hardwoods, they want, if money was no objective and the budget was not a factor, they would want hardwoods everywhere and for everything to match with the open floor plans.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. But I know why Jonathan's asking, because again, so many, especially even in like lofts and different types of properties that we sell, they're so open and so big, and it can be, and again, you're going to be in the kitchen or you have dogs, you have entryways that can really get beat up. So, I mean, I can see why you would ask that question and why it would be nice to have stone and different things in different parts. So we've seen a mix of both. And obviously in older homes, you know, hardwoods are definitely king. And I think, Robby, do you have hardwoods in your kitchen? I was trying to remember.
No,
You have
not
tile.
the kitchen. The
Okay.
kitchen has vinyl. The
Yeah.
formal living room and dining room and bedrooms and all that, they have hardwoods.
Yeah. And so it just, as far as the wear and tear, I think it makes sense to have some of that, you know, diversity going on. So anyway, so thank you so much. That's some great questions. I wanted to just maybe check your Facebook Live real quick and see if anybody's had any questions on your pages. And then we have a few. Oh, go ahead, Robby. Yes, please.
Ed, does your company actually handle sanding and refinishing hardwoods?
Absolutely.
Only replacing. Okay.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, and it's because I've really picked up several big jobs here the last couple of weeks, but it's so far year to date, sanding and finishing is almost half of my business. It's pretty shocking when I jumped into it how fast it became. And the thing is, there's just so much hardwood in Atlanta. It all gets beat up. Going back to Katie's comments, it gets worn, you know, and it loses its luster, and you can walk through to the bare wood, and then where the chairs are sliding back and forth, and the dishwasher leaks a little bit. And hardwoods, they will last the life of the home, but they need to be refinished about every 10 years to keep them looking pristine, if you want them to looking pristine. The other challenge, and Katie mentioned it, is we really do all enjoy the open floor plans. That's what everybody likes now. But it does make it challenging or shocking to clients when they come in and say, it's just a little leak in front of the refrigerator.
Yeah. Yeah.
And say, yeah, but that leak means we're going to have to take out the wood there and patch it. And then we've got to refinish the kitchen, which flows into the living room, which flows into the den.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're finishing the whole first floor, which is a significant investment. And then for most people, once you want to do that much work, they say, well, we should update the color while we're at it. And then you start going down. Now you got to think about your stair treads. We can refinish your stair treads, your handrails, your spindles, and it becomes a very significant project.
That's a dream client for Ed, but for Robby and I, it becomes a bit of a nightmare when you're dealing with a buyer who might be a little anal and difficult, you know, trying to think that they can negotiate maybe having the floors redone, you know, for a little leak, or even with a seller, you know, trying to get the home ready and explaining how that could benefit them to do those things, depending on the home age and what it looks like. So it's really crucial. I mean, floors are, you know, one of the most important things in a home, I think, and it always comes up. I mean, I literally was just walking through a home today that we're getting ready to list, and he has carpet, and he was, you know, debating replacing it, but he actually just had it cleaned and it looked fantastic. But there's always just some issue going on in the house, no matter how good it looks with flooring, always. So anyways, that's a great question too. So anyway, I wanted to open it up to anybody else, either on Facebook or on our call. We have a couple people here. If you have any questions at all, not just for Ed, of course, but for Jonathan or Robby and I know I have a familiar face on this call, and then someone else joining us who's an awesome, also vendor partner of ours, Julie. So Julie, if y'all have any questions for us at all, please let us know. Oh, Ed, you have a question? Yes.
Yes, I did for Jonathan, and really it's for all of you, Katie and Bob, Robbie.
Mhm.
The industry is selling. I mean, real estate is just selling, selling, selling at the moment. But who do you see as the buyers? Have there been any shifts? Are these investors? Are they just people upgrading? Is it anything interesting there versus, who the buyers have been the last couple of years?
I have an answer, but Jonathan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll answer from my perspective. So we talked a little bit about this on some prior calls. So right now with lenders being very generous with putting homes in forbearance, so that those people that, excuse me, have been infected, by losing their jobs, don't go into foreclosure. So there's really no foreclosures going on right now. And the people who buy homes and renovate them and flip them are investors. And what they do is they buy homes on the courthouse stairs that have been foreclosed upon. So the investors aren't really having any properties to buy right now, certainly not ones in which they can buy and make the kind of money that they were making, prior to all of this. So what I'm seeing is people buying for themselves. I'm seeing a combination of first-time home buyers who want to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that interest rates are 3% or lower and have never owned anything before. And then I'm also seeing people who want to all of a sudden make a change because they can. They can sell their house, they can make the money, they can take that money they make, buy something, and keep their payment, about the same of what they're paying right now, but make a major step up in terms of the house that they're purchasing. So I'm seeing sort of a combination of that. I'm not really getting any calls from investors right now. Robbie, what are you seeing?
Well, that you kind of took the words out of my mouth. That's pretty much what I was going to say too. I think that what Katie and I are seeing mostly are people who are taking advantage of fantastic interest rates and people who are owner occupants buying for themselves and maybe making a move up. A lot of first-time buyers. Now is an amazing time to be a first-time buyer because you're going to be locked into the lowest interest rate ever, and it's fantastic. I think at first, maybe several weeks ago, multiple weeks ago, there was some outreach from people who were trying to beat an anticipated rush of investors. Like people were reaching out to us and they had already kind of made up their minds like, hey, I'm going to buy some investment property because I know that the bottom's going to fall out in a second. So I just want to be ready. And those people have not really they haven't really made moves because there hasn't been the opportunity that they thought they would get. It hasn't happened. So there were people who kind of reached out, a couple months ago who were like, hey, let's be at the ready when everything just falls apart because I want to take advantage of this like market crash. And that hasn't really taken place. So it's mostly just been owner occupants and, people buying homes for themselves. That's what I've been having.
Yeah, and just to piggyback exactly on what Robbie said, I would say there's been even more so now even than the first-time home buyers, a lot of move up buyers. Like, so for instance, just people who have been in their home even just a few years, not even that long, and they've had some life changes, positive or negative. Several people we're talking to, their families have grown. And they've just wanted to get a larger home, a bigger home, a different neighborhood, different school district. A lot of that is going on right now. And that's a kind of a traditional thing to also happen in the summer. So another example of how COVID-19 has not affected people's real lives and the things that go on every year. People are still getting married and divorced and children and passing away, like all the things that normally happen. And financially, all of these people actually that we've been talking to have a really nice amount of equity, or at least some equity, to be able to sell their home, make some money, and then with the interest rates how they are, afford even more than they might have a couple years ago. So it's kind of a perfect storm when it's not ever really happened that often, that it's kind of a seller's market, but a little bit of a buyer's market, and that it's a positive financial move for a lot of people. And especially with the first-time home buyers and the rentals, the apartments have not stopped and they are not stopping. And the rental rates in town are insane. You can certainly buy a house, a nice home or even a condo, whatever, a townhouse in a similar neighborhood to where you could be in a 1-bedroom rental. And, you know, we're definitely working with some people like that too. So, you know, it's a mixed bag, but it's all been positive, you know, moves for these people thus far. And we anticipate continuing, you know, like we've been talking about. So we did have one question, we missed it earlier on, but it's for Ed. And it's from a client who's getting ready to have her home listed, hopefully. And she said, well, we need to move furniture into storage while the new flooring is being put in. So can you answer that, Ed, how you work around furniture and things?
Sure. If we're doing anything other than sand and finish, we can move the furniture from one room to another room, or move the furniture to one side of the room while we install luxury vinyl, then move the furniture on top of the new luxury vinyl. So for those products, we never need to put it into storage. With sand and finish, occasionally we do, but that's only when we're doing the whole home. Sanding and finishing, you know, even though we say it's dustless sanding methods, I always point out to people that means less dust, a lot less dust than the old days, but there's still dust and so forth. So we don't want the furniture around all the sanding. And then when we start doing all the staining, the polyurethane, we want to do the entire floor at the same time so you don't get any streaks or any differences because you did some of the floor one day and then you came back and did the floor another day. So in homes like that, sometimes a pod is needed to put the furniture in. It can be particularly a problem in condos because there is no extra space in condos. Mm-hmm. But again, even for those homes, you know, excluding the condos, a lot of people have a garage. Furniture can be put in the garage. It's amazing how much you can pack into bathrooms and the utility rooms when you need to. So a pod could be needed, but it's really actually quite rare.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and this particular person in home, I happen to know pretty well. So their situation is it's a townhome, and mm-hmm. she's talking about putting in new flooring. So I have a feeling she's talking about replacing carpet specifically. Oh. And then with hardwoods, I don't know about that, but I feel like she's asking kind of about carpet. So that said, since I've had carpet even replaced in my personal home, I know that you're able to just move the furniture again. And she's in a kind of a spacious townhome, and she does have a garage. So if need be, maybe there's places to put it. And then, you know, even if she were doing the whole floor, which I don't remember how much carpet she needs, isn't it usually a one-day kind of event? Yeah, one day. So it's not, you know, it's not like hardwoods where it can take several days to do that. So, so good. So that's a good question. Thank you for asking us, Wendy. Hopefully you heard the answer. And we can, we record these too. So we're happy to get with you later and give you the answer again, and also to connect you with Ed. Ed is available anytime to answer any questions via phone or Zoom, or obviously you're comfortable having him come to your home. That's another thing you might mention, Ed, just because you do all these different things that some people don't. I know you will come to a person's home and do a full estimate for them, a free estimate, if you will, and then provide that information and they can determine if they want to work with you or not, right?
In fact, I would say I always go to the home. Every now and then I'll get someone to say, you really don't need to come. I can give you someone else's measurements, or I can take the measurements and just kind of send it to you. And I think it's important to be in the home for a couple of reasons. One is the only way to know for sure you like the product is to touch it, to feel it, to look at the color. You know, when you see a picture of something or something on a manufacturer's website, sometimes the colors don't translate well. Mm-hmm. And then the other part is when I'm in the home, I'm always looking for issues. Is the subfloor squeaking? Is it cracked? Is it crooked? Mm-hmm. And all the details, because the last thing we want to do is have a team of installers show up and then there are issues, they can't do the job, they don't have the right materials, there are problems. We like to dot our I's and cross our T's. The only way you can really do that is to go in the home and look.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean that's crucial, of course. But at least you're available to come and do that. And again, that's a free thing that you do. It's really nice because a lot of vendors might charge to do something like that. So anyway, so anyone else have any other questions either on their Facebook Live or from anyone on the call? And again, it can be about anything real estate related. It doesn't have to be for Ed and carpet and flooring. David or Julie, do you have any questions or thoughts for us? Not right now. Okay, and then when Ed was talking about, what kind of homes are selling or who's looking, we did a cool graphic today that I'm going to attempt to share. Let's see what happens when I share my screen. I'm not the most techie of this team, so I'm going to try to share my screen and show y'all my graphic and see if it shows up here. This is, can y'all see that?
We can read all your text messages.
No, can you see this now?
Just your text messages.
Oh no, okay, well then you can't do that. I wanted to show
You can read those if you want.
We can read that, yeah, no, I'll stop share. I have a technical, I wanted to show you the little graphic that we did. There was one from David there. I wanted to show you the little graphic that we did today to show you the homes, but just to tell you a little bit about the homes we've been selling. It's been a mix of first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, sellers, and sellers and buyers. And what I was going to show, just to kind of show you the differences of the homes, was there's a combination of condominiums, townhomes, single-family homes, mostly in town, but there are a few that scattered about a little bit outside the perimeter. And also the total of the homes, we've successfully, I think, closed now 12 homes during this period, and we have many more under contract. So again, just to kind of reiterate what this past 3.5 months or so has been like, it's certainly not been the easiest on anybody, but the great news of it is that the real estate market in Atlanta hasn't stopped, and it's not going to. So, that's the best part of that. David, were you waving at us? Reading my text messages? Okay, I thought I saw a question there, maybe not. But anybody else, anybody on their Facebook? I just want to double check my Facebook Live and see if anybody.
I just want to say that I'm really, this is cheesy and sentimental, but I'm actually really just proud of our clients and that, have made moves during this time. I know it's scary, and people who are making moves sometimes are planning on that for like several months, and it's scary anyway, but during this time it's been particularly wacky and the people who have worked with us and pulled it off are just amazing. So I know Katie and I are hugely appreciative, and I just, I'm proud of the people that we've worked with. I think they're amazing. So
yes, I agree. I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of everybody, as part of my team and on this call. We haven't stopped, and it's been tough for us as well, personally and professionally, but this has got us through. So thanks to our clients, and thanks to the Zoom, and thanks to the referrals and all the, communication, we've been able to continue. Thank God for Zoom. Can you imagine? We didn't know what Zoom was 3 months ago, but now we couldn't have lived without it, So I'm very happy and proud about that as well. Yes. And we love our clients. We love our referrals. So we really appreciate all of you guys. So thank you. And thank you to Jonathan for being on this call with us for 14 weeks. It's been a long time, but we're not stopping. And there is somebody on our call right now who hope is going to join us as a special guest in the future. So we'll probably just be doing them a little more infrequently. We're hoping to start up again in August and just have a little bit of a different format, but we're not going away, whether you see us on Zoom or hopefully in person sometime soon. We're still here. So anyway, anything you want to say else, Jonathan, to kind of wrap up, or your experience or what's going on, or?
Excuse me. What I want to say is that, and again, we've talked about this on previous calls before about some of the minor adjustments to the loan products, making them a little bit more restrictive in terms of credit scores, in terms of, things depending on the products and so forth. But what I do foresee is most of those overlays per se that came into play will probably go away. Right? And so in future calls, I can kind of, update people as to, what's going on in as far as, product guidelines and, are they becoming less restrictive? I certainly don't foresee them becoming any more restrictive, but I do foresee that the overlays that have been put in place or the adjustments will go away.
That's good. That's good to know. Because yes, early on in these calls, we really were very concerned about different products and options, and lending even being an option, which in that case, we wouldn't even have clients that were able to buy and sell because they couldn't get a loan. And again, that's never really happened to an extreme, but it's good to know there's going to be more options.
Yeah, and just for my personal experience is I can't think of a single deal that would have happened had the changes not been made.
Mm-hmm.
So minor that it didn't affect anything or anybody that I'm working with the exception of maybe having to get their credit scores increased. And with a tool that I have called Rapid Rescoring, we can do that pretty quickly and get them up to the scores that they need to be. So I don't think that for me personally that I lost any business because of these more restrictive guidelines. And again, they were more, they were more subtle than anything. They weren't huge changes. So
I'll second that. I haven't had, I know there's been changes and we've talked about them and kept our eye on them and that sort of thing, but I can't think of anything that didn't come to fruition because of, lending changes or anything. Luckily, we were able to figure it out, and we have.
Absolutely. And just because we do have a silent appraiser on the call, I'll reiterate that we haven't had any appraisal issues at all. Honestly, the last 3 months or over 3 months have been smoother than probably the previous 3 months with appraisals. So, I mean, the values are really holding and increasing in a lot of places. And that's excellent too, because that's just another step in the process of buying a home and or selling a home. You got to get through the appraisal process. So
right,
it's all worked really smoothly during this period.
And Robby's stats today, sort of back that up, that days on the market, are under 30. And if things are staying on the market 60, 90, 120 days, then you probably would start to see appraisal issues. But because they are, selling so quickly, it shows that the demand is there, and that really supports values as, continual demand, and that people still want to buy in that price point in that area, and comparables to support it.
Yeah, for sure. And so we need more listings. So if anybody on this call or anybody in Facebook land is thinking about selling, it really is a fantastic time. And, we also have a lot of buyers that are in the wings too, kind of waiting and seeing what's going to come up. And I spoke with one just yesterday. They're looking in a very specific neighborhood and there's not a lot of options, and they're growing, tireless and concerned about it. So, there's lots of things that we can do with our network to reach out to other agents and people we know in those neighborhoods to try to see if people are interested in selling. So again, whether you're a seller or buyer, we'd love to talk to you, but because the inventory is low, if you are thinking about selling, it's such a great time. And then we will find the buyers as well, because they're out there. So that's just a little side note that hasn't changed since the beginning of this call. But what's good is more people are feeling comfortable with that. If you live in your home currently and you're going to be selling it and you're going to continue to live in it, we're still taking all of the safety precautions that we've taken from day one of this. We've got masks, we've got sanitizer, we've got booties. We ask people to take off their shoes, whatever you're most comfortable with people doing to enter your home. We make it a very safe experience. Oh, I see a note here from Julie. Supply is low. She reiterated that. If there are multiple offers, it's good to let the appraiser know. This shows market conditions and provides support from the market. So absolutely, that's something that I always do. And as a listing agent, that's something that I always do, is communicate directly with the appraiser to share with them multiple offers or not, just to share with them the comps that we use, for our, to come up with our listing price, and probably at the same time the sales price, because there's not a whole lot of difference there. And so I think good appraisers really appreciate good listing agents that do share that information with them. If there's multiple offers, if it went under contract prior to even going in the MLS, there's so many factors there. So that's coming from a experienced and awesome appraiser. So that's helpful information. So thank you, Julie. So anyway, any other questions or thoughts anybody has? We're getting close to 6:30. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, if there's still time, really a question for Jonathan.
Mhm.
I've heard different stories about forbearance. Some say, it's only for a few months and then a balloon payment is due. And I've heard other people say, no, 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 it goes to the end of the mortgage. It probably depends on the mortgage and the lending and so forth. Is there any concern about a lot of foreclosure hittings and balloon payments and such in the industry?
No, I mean, most of the people that are going into forbearance are people that have either lost their jobs or been put on furlough. And those have been put on furlough, they have a sort of a return to work date already sort of in the horizon. And so this is just to assist them to help them, through the 90 days. And that's what typically a forbearance is, 90 days. And what happens is that after the forbearance does not affect your credit in a negative way. It'll be reflected on that person's credit report that they are in forbearance, but that is not going to affect their credit scores. Once they come out of forbearance and they've made 3 consecutive payments on time, then they're free to refinance their house at that time if they want to. If they decide to sell their house directly after the forbearance period and they haven't paid that money back, it'll just be tacked onto the principal balance and taking out of the proceeds when they sell their house. So the lender will get their money eventually. If they stay in the house indefinitely, then it's basically just tacked on to the end. And so if they stay in the house 10 years from now, they'll just continue making their payments. They don't have to make up 3 more payments that they missed. They just keep making payments. And then at the end, when they sell their house and payoff is ordered, it'll reflect that principal, balance will be a little bit higher because of those 3 payments that they didn't have to make. So I think it's a great thing because I think what this is stopping is foreclosures, keeping people in their houses because people are going to go back to work. I mean, it's not that there's, that these jobs are going to be gone forever. They're just gone in certain industries until things come back. And that's, mainly in the hospitality industry and the food and beverage industry. People are going to go back to going out to dinner, and people are going back to traveling. And I have a client who works for a hotel chain, and she was put on furlough, and she's 2 weeks into it now, and they told her that her return to work date is mid-August. So she went ahead and put her mortgage in forbearance during those months so that she can just basically keep the cash that she would pay for her mortgage and just live, and then work in August, and then she does want to refinance when she's able to. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. I'll unmute. You muted yourself, but that's okay. It sounds like it answered your question. Cool. Yes, good. Great. Anyone else have any other questions or thoughts right now? I'm looking at the Facebook Live. Do y'all have any questions on your Facebook Live? That one snuck up on me about the flooring. Great. Well, thank you guys if you don't. Again, we really appreciate you. We appreciate you being here for 14 weeks. If you have been, I think it's been a really great run on this Zoom update calls. And like I said, we'll be back. We're going to do this again in August. And in the meantime, we're available, of course. You can always call us, text us, Facebook us, Zoom us, whatever you want to do. We're available to you. And to all of our vendors, that we've had on, we thank you so much. We appreciate you all. We'll be referring you and hoping you guys are referring us soon. And we'll see you hopefully also in these homes too. And so thank y'all very much. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you soon.